Sponsored by Brilliant. Apple, just right now, is announcing some new MacBook Pros for 2019. I had the chance to chat with them briefly about the updates, and while I'm still waiting on all of the details, there are a couple of big things worth covering right now. And of course, I'll link to all of those details in the description. Now, up front, these aren't the rumored 16-inch redesigns that would continue the war on bezels and bring back the inverted T arrow keys. Nothing like that, at least not yet. But please do go ahead and factor this update into your timeline predictions on that one. And that's almost certainly why we're getting this announcement now, and nowhere near the big stage at WWDC. And frankly, this clears the deck for whatever the big announcements are at DubDub this year. What these are a manifestation of something else a lot of pros have been asking Apple for a long time. Timely, consistent spec bump updates between those redesigns. Waiting for years between even spec bump updates is something no consumer really wants, but it's particularly frustrating for pros, for whom time is literally more valuable than money, and who need, not just want, the latest and greatest silicon every time, all the time. With last July's Coffee Lake processor updates, last November's Vega Pro graphics updates, and now this month's Coffee Lake refresh, I think Apple is trying to show, not just tell, pros their renewed commitment to giving them just that. And I know that this will make some people all shades of salty with, I just bought one in July, or I just bought one in November. How dare Apple release a newer one so soon? And you have to balance that with people who want constant updates made available whenever Intel or AMD releases appropriate new silicon. Count me firmly in that latter camp. Something new may make what I have seem old, but new specs don't change old specs. They just give us more options for updating in the future. So, that out of the way, hit subscribe, turbo boost the little bell gizmo so you don't miss any future Apple news, and let's dive right into these updates. I'm Rene Ritchie, and this is Vector. Okay, so keyboard things first. It's been tweaked again. Apple isn't calling it a 4th generation butterfly keyboard, but they've changed the material used for the mechanism, so it should, and I think at this point, it's fair to say no one should take anything for granted until it's had months, if not years in the field to prove it so, but it should reduce or even eliminate some of the problems, like repeated characters, that some customers have been experiencing. That's something Apple's apologized for recently, and now they're putting their support money where their keyboards are as well. Specifically, Apple is extending its keyboard service program to every machine with the butterfly keyboard, so they're all covered at no extra charge. Also, Apple is working to make sure that if and when repairs are needed, they're done absolutely as quickly as possible. That's something that we've seen leaked before, with more in-store repairs and 24-hour or less turnaround time. So yeah, no new keyboards, again, at least not yet, but continued improvements and an upfront, pretty damn candid commitment to stand behind the current keyboards for every machine that has them. If you're a pro waiting on a new MacBook Pro, you'll have to weigh all of that against your current and near future needs for those speeds. And second, as to those speeds, Apple is putting 9th generation Coffee Lake refresh processors into the 15-inch MacBook Pro. That means up to 8 core processors with turbo boost up to 5.0 gigahertz. The 13-inch MacBook Pro is sticking with 8th generation Coffee Lake, but with faster quad-core processors with turbo boost speeds up to 4.7 gigahertz. Why not 9th generation Coffee Lake refresh for the 13-inch? Apple's not saying, but if history is any indicator, Intel once again didn't have the specific chips Apple needs available in anything approaching a timely manner. And yeah, go ARM. Also, Apple still doesn't have anything new to report on the 13-inch non-touch bar model. My complete guess is the 13-inch MacBook Air just covers those customers. Now, I know Apple gets a lot of grief from some segment of pros that complain about multiple core, high base, and turbo frequency chips in an enclosure as thin and thermally constrained as the current MacBook Pro. But for those who do believe any improvement is an improvement, and that workloads aren't as heterogeneous and frequency modulation is far more frequent than benchmarks would lead YouTubers to believe, this is more as in more. Apple, for their part, has done a bunch of testing on a bunch of real-world workloads and says the new 15-inch MacBook Pro with 8 cores is between 40% and 200% faster. That includes twice as many Alchemy plugins in Logic Pro 10, double-speed renders in Maya Arnold, 75% faster complex edits and filter applications in Photoshop, code compilations up to 65% faster in Xcode, and up to 11 simultaneous multicam 4K video streams in Final Cut Pro 10. And I look very much forward to Jonathan or Marquez putting that to the test in the very near future. What it actually means for you, though, will really depend on your own personal workload. If you think fewer, slower cores and better sustained frequencies are better, save yourself a bucket of money and go for those. If any amount of time savings is worth it to you, even if it requires ludicrous, overpowered, pricey silicon to get you there, and money is no object, there's that 8-core i9 now sitting right there for you. Because nothing comes for free though, I was drooling over the thermals in Dave2D's Razer Blade Pro video the other day until he got to this part.
The battery life on this is extraordinarily short. It's a 3-hour battery life. It's actually a little bit less than 3 hours, like 2-hour 50 was what I was getting.
Yeah. Ouch. I travel too much for that to be realistic for my workflow. The 15-inch MacBook Pro, though, has been a champ. And I say that as someone who has to edit and export video as fast as inhumanly possible after events and briefings on the road or just on days like today. For developers, it may be different. And if that's a career that interests you, check out Brilliant. Brilliant offers dozens of interactive courses, including ones on algorithms and machine learning, that you explore on your commute, while traveling, or just about anywhere, even offline. Download any of their dozens of interactive courses through the mobile app, and you'll be able to solve fascinating problems in math, science, and computer science, no matter where you are or how spotty your internet connection. What's awesome about these courses is that they're all totally interactive. You'll experiment with pendulum clocks to master the physics of motion, use rockets to model algebraic functions, and learn probability by playing casino blackjack. So if you want to support Vector and get unlimited access to all of Brilliant's in-depth math and science courses, you can head on over to brilliant.org/vector and get 20% off their annual premium subscription. Thanks, Brilliant. Everything else remains the same. Same memory and storage options, same graphics options up to and including the Vega Pro. And prices remain the same as well, starting at $17.99 for the 13-inch with Touch Bar and $23.99 for the 15-inch. So hit like, hit subscribe, it really helps out the channel, and then hit up the comments and let me know. What do you think about Apple's new cadence for MacBook Pro updates? And if you've been waiting to update, are these the updates you've been waiting for? Thank you so much for watching and see you next video.